Hello everyone and welcome to Katharine's Creatures. This is episode 37 and this is a series where we're going to touch base on various mythological beast beings and the like pulled from lore worldwide. And today I'm actually doing a part 2 and this is pertaining to the Chinese long or lung, which is their dragon. So last time we were talking a little bit about the history of its creation and development and how it was conceived, but today I'm actually going to be going and delving into a little bit more of the actual dragon lore. So the Chinese long, during the Han Dynasty, there was a man called Huang Fu. And again, let me preface right here by saying I'm not a linguist, so if I mispronounce anything, I do apologize in advance. That's not my intent. Now, Wang Fu described the Chinese long as having 9 different anatomical kind of resemblances for different creatures. And his set of 9 were described as the head of a camel, the antlers of a stag, eyes of a demon, neck of a snake, belly of a clam, scales of a carp, claws of an eagle, the soles, so the pads, of a tiger, and the ears of a cow. So very, very different creatures all kind of mashed together to create what he described as the dragon. And depending on where you were in history or who was describing it, the type of animals could vary. Again, they usually were in groups of 9, but animals such as the tortoise or the rabbit or the hawk were kind of exchanged for some of the other animals when describing what these different subparts of the Chinese long look like. Most people believe that in the forehead or on top of the forehead there was kind of a lump, a special area upon the dragon, and that actually was very special because without it the dragon would not be able to levitate, so ascend to the heavens and essentially fly, which Chinese dragons are one of those few, I guess, mythological entities that can fly without actual wings. There have been times during history when the Chinese long has been described with wing-like or small wings that would branch out of their front limbs, but for the most part they weren't really described with having any wings and they could still fly. And actually, talking about their capabilities, the Chinese long had, they were almost limitless in power depending on certain lore. They could change their shape and size. They could be as small as a silkworm and kind of hide themselves and disguise themselves as those little teeny little creatures, or as large as the universe themselves. So that's pretty cool. They can obviously control different kinds of water elements, and because of that, actually, even though the original dragons or the original longs were perceived as benevolent, kind, obviously I'm getting tongue-tied today, kind, wise, just, by the time when Buddhism came around, the Buddhists kind of countered that and saying, there might be some not so great dragons out there as well, because if the dragon is kind of a water element, or water elemental, you have to think about that. Water can do great things. They can quench your thirst, you need it to survive, but it can also do horrible or terrifying things like floods and storms and these tidal waves that can destroy ships. So the Buddhist idea of these dragons were that they weren't all good, though originally in the lore they were. So interestingly about the dragon and again, the Chinese lore of the long, their descriptions are so precise. They knew the number of scales upon these creatures. For instance, there were supposed to be 117 scales upon the Chinese long. 81 of them represented the yang, so the positive essence of the universe, and 36 of them were the yin, so the negative essence of the universe. But the dragon encompassed both yin and yang. Now, going back to the dragons and their capabilities. Obviously, again, like I said, they can fly. They have the abilities to camouflage themselves, to even glow in the dark. So all different kind of really fascinating things that the Chinese lung, like I said, could be described as having these capabilities that drastically separate them from other dragon lore around the world. The Chinese revered them. They were one of the animals of the zodiac. And actually, in some of the zodiac dragon lore, the dragons, when talking about the different components of the creatures that it comprises, the Chinese dragons, when in reference of the zodiac, were supposed to harbor parts of all the 11 other animals of the zodiac. So part of it was described like the snout of a pig, because pig is one of the 12. I mean, the dog, the serpent, all that were represented within the creature, the dragon itself. In other Chinese lore, you'll hear a lot reference to their fact that there were 4 major dragon kings. And the dragon kings obviously are the most powerful of the dragons. And they served the Jade Emperor, which in their lore is like the creme de la creme, the highest, most powerful entity most could conceive of. So the Dragon Kings were under the Jade Emperor, but they were still very, very powerful creatures. And when in reference to those 4 Dragon Kings, they actually represented the cardinal points, and they were color coordinated based on the cardinal points of China. So you had the azure dragon, so blue. You had the black dragon, the white dragon, and the red. At some point, a yellow dragon kind of came into the mix, and at that point, instead of the 4 Dragon Kings, they kind of represented the 5 forms of the highest deity. If you want to go into that lore, that's its own separate thing. Like I said, I only am trying to touch base on the fact that the lore in and around the Chinese Long is so diverse. It is very, very vast, and if you are fascinated about it or interested in it, please do look into it more. There are so many other aspects about the Chinese Long that I don't have time to kind of delve into. But again, going back to the Dragon Kings, they also represented the 4 seas that China at that time believed in. So each of the dragons were kind of almost like a personification of those big, vast oceans or seas. And dragon lore in China as well, is you'll notice that a lot of these other sub-dragons were represented as the rivers themselves. Again, these the correlation between, or the tight bond between dragon and a body of water is extreme here in Chinese lore. The only other thing I will quickly talk about is that there is a sublore about the 9 sons of the dragon, and they are, the concept of 9 is actually a very potent number in China. It is a number that actually equates to heaven. So having things that are bundled in sets of 9, again, the 9 components of the dragon, 9 sons of the dragon, and the 9 sons of the dragon were different entities that all had different personalities and had different descriptions, which depending on their representation and art, they again were kind of totems that represent different aspects of good, bad. But like I said, there's so much to go into of the Chinese Long. I could ramble on and on, but my time is well over my 5-minute kind of marker. So if you have any questions about this or anything else, post them in the comments below or message me on social media. And until next time, Skål.